Absolutely. And I think there's two things that all of your viewers should do as it relates to preparing for this coming hurricane season and the increased building materials costs. The first thing everyone should do is reach out to their insurance agent or their insurance carrier. And this is really a situation, James, where having an insurance agent comes in play rather than just going direct to an insurance company, and having that insurance agent rerun the numbers of the dwelling coverage on their homeowner's policy, because that dwelling coverage is the rebuild. That's supposed to be the rebuild cost, right? So if building materials go up, there's a strong chance if their agent goes in and reruns those numbers, that coverage A is going to go up. Now, yes, that's going to lead to an increased premium, but you would rather have a couple $100 higher premium than owe $20,000 more because you're not covered properly in the event of a claim. The second thing everyone should do to prepare for the upcoming hurricane season as it relates to building prices is a lot of companies offer an endorsement on their homeowner's policy. It's a 25% buffer essentially that allows the insurance company to pay up to 25% more than what they're actually covered for. So the way that would work is, let's say your house is covered for $300,000 and you have a bad claim and that $300,000 is exhausted, and in order for that insurance company to get you back to where you were, they're actually going to have to pay more than $300,000. If you have that endorsement, even though your coverage may only be a certain amount, it'll actually pay for that up to 25% more. And the good thing about that endorsement, James, is it only costs about $75 to $100 a year.
I don't know, Alex's looks really good.
Yeah, it looks like
He literally looks like the Emperor.
We probably need to do a May the 4th. Maybe we get Kenneth, we go out on the roof, let Darth Vader do the little thing where he holds people up. Maybe we get Kenneth on the roof, he jumps up in the air, just not jumping off the building, but just jumping up in the air because it's a pretty background. He jumps up in the air, and then you edit it, so I'm holding him up, and we put bad insurance on his face. Hey, Kenneth, John Kenneth Williamson. So act like you're all the way over the other side of the building or something. All right, so what we're gonna do, we've got to do a May the 4th photo.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up on the roof. I'm gonna get you to jump in the air. Okay.
You want me to do a flip?
No, you're just gonna jump in the air just to make it look like you're floating. And then Grant's gonna edit you so you look a little bit higher. And then I'm gonna stand below you with my hand like this.
Force choking.
But we're gonna edit out your face and it's gonna say bad insurance.
That's cool.
For May the 4th.
That's cool.
Okay. Alright, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to edit him where it's obvious. I don't want him just to jump and that be it. I want you to put him way up in there. It's Death Star's Darth Vader.
The Death
And
Star.
I'm Darth Vader in this.
The Death Star is the Portal logo.
So make that the little circular thing. This is good footage. The little circular thing.
Oh, we're recording.
Make that the O in Portal and put Portal on there.
Okay.
Maybe. Could you, what do they call the little, is it at or
The Walker thing?
the Walker things?
Yeah.
So did you know this? George Lucas was in Mobile, and so down there by the port, if you go down Water Street, there's these big blue things that look like those. He saw those, and that's what inspired him to draw those.
No way.
Yes, that's a true story. That's a duck boat.
What?
That's a duck boat. You ought to know that. That's a duck boat story.
I did not know that.
So maybe could you edit one of those where it's walking behind? That's cool. Yeah, put one of those in there too.
How has podcasting changed your life, Bradley Flowers?
There's a lot of ways to answer that question. The easiest and most simplest way, it's if you listen to a lot of authors, specifically business authors, they will tell you they don't make any money from their books directly. They use their books as a door opener to get them in rooms in the business world. And simply put, for me, my podcast is my book. It's what allows me to get on the phone with carrier CEOs, technology CEOs, clients, even colleagues, whomever, and open those doors and allow us to have a seat at that table.
And one of the things I say is when you hear people at conventions that are keynote speakers, you will see best-selling author, a lot of those. Now you're seeing host of the blank podcast. It is almost becoming quite equal, which leads us into this beautiful thing of, this is Gary Vaynerchuk's Agent 2021. Why did you get to speak at that?
Because of the podcast.
Okay, this is that event as well. You moderated a whole panel.
Can I say something about that picture?
Go right ahead.
In the spirit
Wait,
of
that's not you?
In the spirit of an advertising group
Yes.
and at a pizza shop, the guy on the far left is Steve Babcock. He's the guy that invented the Domino's pizza tracker, by the way.
Oh, okay. Damn. See, everybody's like, well, wow, great. So this is you at the Senior Bowl Summit. So you moderated there.
Correct.
Which a lot you
And put that on.
And you were allowed to do it because
Of the podcast.
of this podcast. 8% Nation, which is very big in the insurance world. So you speak at local at your industry conventions.
Correct.
And then we got to interview, if you know Gary Vaynerchuk, by the way, Gary V, that guy right there. An unbelievable fun thing. Again, us being able to, it is cocktail writing, but we got to do a show from one of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world, and we got to do that because we're putting out consistent quality. I mean, they're the talent. I just make the show, but it's fun to be able to partner up and collaborate like this and get to be a part of those things. Who the hell is listening to an insurance podcast?
So initially, Scott and I had a real conversation where it was, okay, do we selfishly make a podcast about insurance for consumers, or do we make it for the industry? Neither one made sense because the one for consumers, we would put Ambien out of business and then they would sue us because we put so many people to sleep. And then the one for the industry, we don't have a product to sell the industry. So the original idea was, hey, look, let's just do it to check the box. But what it's become is it's industry people. So it's insurance agents, carrier representatives, technology companies, folks like that, but mostly insurance agents. And the way I described it back when I was a lot less confident about it was we're a marketing podcast that leans towards insurance. We're talking about a lot of the same things you would on a marketing podcast. We're just niche focused. So we're talking about Bitcoin and automation and Facebook pixels and things like that, just in an insurance industry world.
And that's how I explain that to people. I'm like, look, it's a marketing show. Just take the word insurance out and put you're an agent of this, and they are social media, podcasting, all those vehicles.
The best compliment I ever got was the first time I met Chris Andrews with Bienville Bites Food Tour, and I didn't know him at the time. And he's like, man, I love your podcast. And I'm like, man, very rarely do I meet someone here that listens to it. And I was like, well, man, what agency do you work at? He's like, oh, no, I run a food tour. I just take out the word insurance and put food tour in, and it fits. I'm like, that's the best thing anybody's ever said to me.
You do a video show that's also a podcast, correct? Called Centers of Influence. What was the impetus, the spark behind this?
I'm a long talker.
No, look, so I'm trying to make sure we hit this little number.
I have no less than one person from the Insurance Guys podcast audience reaches out to me every day, and they would ask one version of a few different questions. How do I grow in a niche? How do I become the mayor of my village? Or how do I just become like the insurance guy in my town? And I would answer, you need to do some sort of local podcast. And I would over and over and over and over and over.
What about locally focused?
Locally focused or niche focused or whatever you're trying to do. If you're selling product to truckers, do a trucking podcast, and so forth. And I gave that advice over and over and over and over and over. Nobody took it. I did have one guy finally take that advice. You don't know this. He literally has a TV show now. He did the show and a local TV station picked it up.
Is he paying you royalty?
No. So finally I was like, dang it, I'm just going to do this myself as a case study in Mobile so that one day I can give a keynote presentation at a conference. It's like, this is what I did and here are the metrics. So that's the ethos behind Centers of Influence. Well, it's like, one example I give from ROI, and this is a real life example that happened a couple months ago. So Grant and I do a YouTube show called Making the Donuts. And so in the insurance industry, specifically the independent insurance industry side that I'm on, the absolute hardest thing to do is to go to a carrier, an insurance carrier, and convince them to give you a contract. That's very difficult. That's what most independent agents struggle with, and especially when they're getting started. We had a lady stop by our office a couple weeks ago that worked for a carrier who we didn't currently represent. Knocked on the door and said, I'm a huge fan of Making the Donuts and the Insurance Guys podcast. I want to give your company a contract. I can't measure the ROI on that, but I know it's positive.
Well, we're done. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Johnny Gwynn, Deep Fried Studios. Please come by anytime and talk to me.